So we've made it past the beta for the Division 2. Sorry, but I had to throw that in there. And it's now time to look over the good, the bad, and the ugly as I experienced them from the first of 2 betas scheduled for the Division 2. Hey everybody, LtBuzzLitebeer here, and I'm sorry this video was not ready yesterday, but since I maintain a full-time job outside of gaming and content creation, I cannot always meet the fastest deadlines for creating and posting content. So anyways, the closed beta. Yeah. Well, it did have some bright moments along with moments that I would rather forget. So with that, let's start off with this review on a positive note and get right into what I think went well. Starting off with what I thought went well, and the very first item that really stuck out at me was the gunplay. It just felt tight and well connected in terms of player control and feedback once I ADS'd. Gun sounds varied across the game, and it was nice to see varied weaponry actually be relevant in a Division game versus just equipping an M4 and plowing through everything. I wasn't able to spend more than about 8 to 10 hours playing the beta, but the weapons that I was able to loot were all interesting to use, and in general, I felt this was one of the strongest points of the beta. Next up, and staying on this positive theme, was the environment. And I know this has been a polarizing subject amongst the community, but after spending thousands of hours plowing through the bleak, harsh backdrop of New York, it was really nice to see greenery again. The environment looked dense and lush, like a world would look in real life if it were allowed to grow unchecked by mankind. Now, as I've said in my previous Division 2 videos, Ubisoft makes beautifully crafted environments, and this game is no different. Just like in the previous Division game, I found myself at times just stopping and taking in my surroundings. In particular, I was struck at the historical beauty and overall deterioration effects I found in the base of operations. At the 2 previous playtests I was able to attend, I was seated on an Xbox, and no offense to the capabilities of that system, but seeing the world at full ultra on my PC was really something to behold. Overall, I was slightly saddened that the design team did not take a different approach to the plot and storytelling for this latest chapter, instead opting again to use the disjunct and splintered delivery method of using echoes and communications to help us piece together the story of what happened in Washington, D.C. Again, our characters seem to be mute and incapable of engaging in dialogue, and I really believe this could have gone a long way towards helping to better connect us to our characters. Perhaps something along the lines of Detroit Become Human, in which we get to choose our own paths, and each choice we choose has its own line of cause and effect. Since the game is a month from launch, there's nothing that can be done about this item, but just throwing in my 2 cents, even though the delivery method for story and lore is delivered well through the comms, it would have just been really nice to have seen a completely new approach. I like the main story missions, crafting, materials collecting, and tasks that we are sent on in the open world as they help familiarize us with the map. But in particular, I really enjoyed the side missions even more than the main missions, as they seem to have a greater wow factor, as you never really knew who or what you were going to encounter. The in-game trial was truly interesting, as we were able to unlock the 3 specializations and give the invaded missions a go. Me and my squad opted for the hard difficulty right out of the gate, and overall, I liked the new assortment of NPCs, technology, and level designs. However, there were technical issues while going toe-to-toe with the Black Tusk, but more on that later. The Dark Zone seemed to function well enough, and I know many of you really enjoyed the new time to kill and layout for the Dark Zone. Now, I wasn't able to get in there this time due to time constraints, but I was able to experience the thrill of the Dark Zones and organized PvP at the test at Red Storm Studios back in December, and from what I heard and saw from those of you who made it in there this time, it functions identically to what I remember. So now that we've gone over the positives, and believe me, my thoughts and impressions are generally positive towards the beta, let's now take a look at the bad, or in the case of this video, items that I think need attention. First up is the end-game mission, and overall, I like the mission, but there seems to be issues with it, starting off with the scaling factors. It felt like the scaling, especially when in a 4-man squad, was set way too high. And I'm not saying that because I wanted an easier experience, it's just that between the 1 and 2-man squad and 3 and up, there seems to be a huge jump in how much damage the Black Tusk can not only take, but put forth onto you. Non-named elites during the mission all required multiple mag dumps to strip their armor, and at times the mission felt like a bit of a slog due to the really low TTK. I also saw pre-detonation on incoming explosives from the Black Tusk robots, where they were staggering me and my teammates out of cover while still in midair, much like we've seen from the LMB on legendary difficulty missions. I also wasn't really thrilled about the Black Tusk EMP grenades, which seem to be able to strip our armor plating, all from an EMP grenade. Corner clipping is still a very real thing in the game, and I also noticed some odd AI characteristics, and that they seem to heavily focus the squad leader. Now, I've noticed it before in our current game, and it seems to be back in the Division 2. NPCs would literally run past a squad mate who was closer to them and therefore should have posed a greater threat than my character, just so they could get close to me and begin focus firing. Grenade spam seems to be back, and if anything, I would like to see this dialed down a couple of notches, as it really detracts from the combat when you're just getting pounded repeatedly by grenades from every angle. In the open world, the hyena rushers that inject themselves with a stimulant, possibly the spice drug, and then rush headlong at us with the stun batons are a bit too resilient. Having to dump a few mags worth of ammo into an NPC that is armed with nothing more than a baton is a bit overkill. Skill activations, grenade arming, and throwing all felt sluggish. There were more than a few times that I didn't even know if I had actually activated my skill. The game seems to be plagued with double click mechanics, and sometimes I would click my skill to activate and actually click too many times and end up putting the skill away. I also have some concerns under the item of weaponry, with first up being the marksman rifles, and that they didn't quite match the time it takes for the reticle to settle and stabilize, line up that headshot, and then the damage it inflicts or doesn't inflict. I mean, it really felt like too much waiting for not enough reward when it came to the marksman rifles. There were more than a few times that I encountered the legacy double reload bug, and this really needs to be addressed. Also, it felt like the belt-fed LMGs needed a bit more ammo, as some assault rifles with extended mags would exceed the ammo counts available on this weapon type. And finally, ammo for the specialized weapons seemed to drop in odd amounts, and it was either I found tons of it or none at all. I also encountered small items, like my turret locking onto NPCs on the other side of solid walls and firing at them instead of the enemy directly in front of me. Aim while scoped in with a marksman rifle was just not responsive enough, to the point that I unequipped my scope and fired over the shoulder. Sound delays and desyncs, oh my god, more on this later. NPCs still acting like they were in combat even after I killed all surrounding enemies, and other assorted items that I will chalk up to it just being in the beta. Moving on to the last section of this review, and since we've covered the good and the bad, let's now take a look at the ugly. First up, just let me say, I know everybody that was able to experience the beta will have varied stories of performance, and these are going to be based off my playtime on the PC. First up is the poor optimization, and for those of you who have never seen my PC specs, I have a beefy gaming rig with an i9 core and twin 1080 Ti graphics cards and SLI. I mean, I can play most anything in full ultra with absolutely zero issues, but even my rig struggled a bit with the demo. I usually cap my frame rate at 120, so it will work well with the streaming setup, and even with the frame rate cap, my rig could not maintain a solid and steady 60 FPS on full ultra settings. At the advice of one of my viewers, I ended up lowering all shadow settings down one level from max, and that did help it out a bit, but I still saw odd things happening, such as textures not rendering at all or seriously delayed renders, smoke coming out of odd locations, the ground turning into what looked like a mirror or not showing up at all, and stutters when around groups of AI, and teleporting NPCs. There were also strange animation glitches where NPCs would go into the T-pose way too often, enemy NPCs that would insta-spawn out of thin air like they were just beamed down from an alien spacecraft, floating weaponry both on live and dead character models, and just like I mentioned in my previous video, NPCs that would spawn into static textures such as locked rooms or even the back of this trailer.
No, I think I heard game sounds then.
You're mine! Hey! Fuck you! Hey! I'm dead! I'll track you down!
Yeah. Oh, maybe it is I'm dead.
Oh yeah, I can see her leg. She's gonna die now. And that shut her up.
In PvP, the shotgun and marksman rifle stagger was ever present and got overwhelming. And the seeker mines, well, I'm sure you all know the issue with those. And oh shit, when it comes to the UI, oh dear God, the poor user interface. Well, I don't really know where to begin. Wait a second, let me press this confirmation that I want to begin. Do you want to begin? Press the spacebar to begin. Okay, I thought I just did that. I just pressed the spacebar. Now wait, what the hell? Another pop-up? Are you sure you want to begin? Beware, there is no going back if you press the spacebar again. This is it, your 12th and final alert that will allow you to turn back. Press the spacebar. Okay, so you get the idea. I really like the amount of information it now displays, like weapon mods, gear bonuses, and it is all really interesting, but the amount of clicks, button changes, double clicks, and confirmations that it requires is off the charts silly. Holy shit. The sound drops and just general weirdness that I encountered while playing the beta was effing crazy. It ranged from the sound levels getting out of control and downright deafening, sounds not matching up with the surroundings, sharp and piercing sounds out of nowhere, and rampant sound drops. When it was working properly, the sound design was excellent, and the soundtrack is downright badass. But I ended up turning it down as much as possible to avoid having my eardrums either blown out completely or be fooled by yelling coming from behind me when there was absolutely no other NPCs within a 3-block radius. Seriously, the sound team really needs to get to work between now and the live game launch, as it was seriously effed up. So now, let me throw in a little bonus section to this video by giving you my general feelings as to the state of the game, will I play it, and do I recommend picking it up now before launch. Overall, I personally felt that the beta went about as well as the 2 previous tests that I've been a part of. The game has some really interesting concepts and seems to have built upon the original game concept, but now operates with a much more feature-rich experience. Gunplay and world crafting are this game's 2 greatest strengths, and if you like the PvE and LZ portion of the original Division game, you are going to enjoy this game. The campaign has been stated as being approximately 40 hours, and these tend to be a bit overinflated, so let's say somewhere around the length of the original game campaign. PvP seems to be in an even more polarizing state than in our current game, with hardcores and casuals squaring off about the mechanics and the replayability of the DZ and organized PvP. I honestly do not enjoy third-person PvP, blame it on too many years playing Battlefield, but from what I've experienced, I will probably PvP a bit more in this game than I did in our current Division game. The bugs are there, they are evident, they have returned from the previous game, and of all my concerns with the Division 2, this is my biggest, along with microtransactions, and you all know how I feel about those effing things. Can Ubisoft Massive fix enough of the bugs and glitches to take this game to the next level? I honestly don't know. I guess I fall into the category of cautiously optimistic. There seems to be a lot going on in here that could provide the solid bones necessary to take this game to even greater heights through its expansions. But I have also seen what can happen to the game when left unfixed and stale. I guess we will find out on March 15th. So to answer your question as to if you should pre-order the Division 2, I will answer with maybe. If you can handle the issues that I have mentioned, can wait for the final product that it could become, then by all means, pre-order and enjoy yourself. If you want more prim and polish on your games and expect a fully functioning game right out of the box day one, then perhaps you should hold off and wait for the dust to settle before re-evaluating the Battlefield and deciding to spend your hard-earned dollars on the Division 2. As always, I look forward to reading your thoughts in the comment section below. If you could take the time to rate the video, it would be greatly appreciated. If you want some more Lieutenant BuzzLitebeer and my continued coverage of the Division 2 in your lives, make sure to pound that sub button and configure your settings to receive all notifications from my YouTube channel. Follow me over on Twitter and look for me on Twitch with weekly Division streams. Until my next The Division 2 video, this has been Lieutenant BuzzLitebeer saying peace out.